Most people think winning is about talent, luck, or timing, but that's not what separates the few who rise from the many who remain stuck. The real difference begins long before the trophy, the title, or the breakthrough ever appears. It starts in the invisible place. It starts in the way you think when no one is watching, because life does not respond to what you want. It responds to what you expect, what you tolerate, and most importantly, what you believe you deserve. Winners don't wait for confidence to show up. They generate it through the way they interpret their world. They don't see failure as a dead end. They see it as feedback. They don't ask, why is this happening to me? They ask, how is this happening for me and how do I use it? Most people spend their lives chasing results without ever deciding who they are going to be, and that's why they keep cycling through the same outcomes year after year. Winners understand something fundamental that most people overlook. Identity comes first, results come second. Before they ever see success on the outside, they define success on the inside. They decide what kind of person they are committed to becoming, and then they align their actions with that decision. They don't wake up every morning asking how they feel. They wake up knowing who they are. When challenges appear, they don't negotiate with their standards because their identity has already been set. They don't say, I'll try, because trying leaves the door open for retreat. They say, this is who I am and this is how I operate. Winners know that behavior follows identity. If you see yourself as someone who quits when it gets hard, you will always find a reason to stop. If you see yourself as someone who finds a way no matter what, your brain starts searching for solutions instead of excuses. This is not motivation, this is conditioning. Winners don't rely on fleeting emotions. They build an internal blueprint that guides their decisions even when emotions are low. They choose their identity deliberately instead of letting past failures, other people's opinions, or old labels define them. They understand that the strongest force in human behavior is the need to stay consistent with who we believe we are. Change the belief, and behavior must follow. Most people let their environment shape their identity. Winners reverse that equation. They decide who they are first, then they reshape their environment to match that decision. They don't wait for confidence to appear. They act as the person who already possesses it. And through action, confidence is born. They don't wait to feel disciplined. They live as disciplined individuals, and the feelings catch up later. This is why winners can show up when it's uncomfortable, when it's inconvenient, and when no one is applauding. Their actions are not driven by moods, they are driven by meaning. Winners also know that identity is reinforced through rituals. What you do daily is who you become eventually. Every small promise kept strengthens identity. Every promise broken weakens it. That's why winners protect their commitments fiercely, even the small ones, because they know self-trust is built one decision at a time. Over time, this identity compounds. Pressure no longer breaks them, it reveals them. Obstacles no longer intimidate them, they confirm who they are. And once identity is locked in, success stops being something you chase and starts becoming something you naturally attract through the way you think, decide, and show up in the world every single day without exception. The difference between average lives and extraordinary ones often comes down to the questions people ask themselves every day. Most people live on autopilot, asking questions that weaken them instead of empower them. They ask, why does this always happen to me? Or why am I not good enough? And without realizing it, their brain obeys by searching for evidence to support those questions. Winners understand that the brain is a goal-seeking machine, and whatever question you ask, it will work relentlessly to answer. So they train themselves to ask questions that produce power, clarity, and momentum. They don't ask questions that keep them stuck in the past. They ask questions that pull them toward a better future. When something goes wrong, most people immediately focus on blame, regret, or fear. Winners interrupt that pattern instantly. They ask, what can I learn from this? And how can I use this? Those questions shift their state in seconds. Instead of feeling trapped, they feel engaged. Instead of feeling defeated, they feel curious. Curiosity creates movement, and movement creates options. Winners know that emotion follows focus, and focus follows the questions you consistently ask. By asking better questions, they regain control over their emotional state even in the middle of chaos. Winners also understand that questions determine perception. Two people can experience the same event and walk away with completely different outcomes based on what they focus on. One asks, what did I lose? While the other asks, what did this prepare me for? One question leads to contraction, the other leads to expansion. Over time, these questions shape beliefs, and beliefs shape destiny. Winners don't leave this process to chance. They consciously design the questions that dominate their thinking. They ask themselves what matters most, what deserves their energy, and what they will no longer tolerate. Another critical difference is that winners ask questions that demand action. Instead of asking, "Can I do this?" they ask, "How will I make this happen?" That single shift eliminates hesitation and forces creativity. The brain stops debating and starts building. They don't ask, "What if I fail?" They ask, "What if I succeed beyond what I can imagine?" Those questions stretch their vision and raise their standards. Over time, this rewires how they approach challenges. Problems stop feeling personal and start feeling solvable. Winners also ask questions that keep them aligned with their purpose. They regularly check in with themselves and ask whether their actions match the life they want to create. This self-reflection keeps them grounded and intentional. It prevents drift and keeps momentum alive. Because in the end, winners don't think differently by accident. They think differently because they discipline their focus, guide their emotions, and direct their lives through the power of the questions they choose to ask themselves every single day. One of the clearest distinctions between winners and everyone else is how they relate to decisions. Most people stay stuck not because they lack ability, but because they live in hesitation. They overthink, second guess, and wait for certainty that never comes. Winners understand that clarity is not something you find, it is something you create through decision. The moment they decide, their energy shifts, their posture changes, their mind stops circling and starts moving. They know that an imperfect decision made with commitment is more powerful than a perfect decision that never gets made. Winners decide faster because they trust themselves. They don't need endless validation or approval from the outside world. They gather enough information to move forward, then they commit. They understand that life rewards motion, not contemplation. Every decision strengthens their self-belief because it reinforces the idea that they are the kind of person who acts. Even when a decision doesn't lead to the desired outcome, they don't label it as failure, they label it as data. Feedback becomes fuel, not a reason to retreat. What truly separates winners is not just speed of decision, but depth of commitment. Once they decide, they burn the bridges behind them. They don't leave themselves an easy exit. Most people decide with one foot in and one foot out, and that split energy guarantees weak results. Winners go all in. They align their thoughts, actions, and habits with the decision they've made. This level of commitment creates momentum, and momentum simplifies everything. Doubt fades because action replaces it. Fear loses its grip because progress becomes visible. Winners also understand that staying committed is more important than staying comfortable. When obstacles arise, they don't interpret them as signs to stop. They see them as part of the path. They adjust their strategy, but they never abandon their decision. This flexibility combined with unwavering commitment is what allows them to outlast others. While most people quit when it gets hard, winners get stronger because they've already decided that quitting is not an option. Over time, this pattern of decisive action compounds. Each decision followed by commitment builds resilience and confidence. The identity of a winner is reinforced again and again through action. Life begs and has to respond differently, not because circumstances magically change, but because the person facing those circumstances has changed. When you decide who you are, commit to that decision, and take consistent action, hesitation loses its power and progress becomes inevitable through the choices you make and the standards you refuse to compromise on every single day. Most people spend their lives trying to avoid pain, discomfort, and pressure, believing that an easier path will somehow lead to a better life. Winners understand the opposite. They know that pain is not the enemy, it is a signal. Pressure is not something to fear, it is something to use. When challenges arise, most people ask how to escape them. Winners ask how to grow through them. They have trained themselves to see discomfort as a teacher instead of a threat. Because of this, they don't collapse when life applies pressure, they rise to meet it. Winners recognize that pain has a purpose. Emotional pain reveals where growth is required. Physical strain reveals where strength is built. Mental pressure reveals where focus must sharpen. Instead of numbing themselves or distracting themselves from discomfort, winners lean into it with intention. They ask what this moment is demanding from them and how it can shape them into a stronger version of who they need to become. This mindset transforms obstacles into opportunities. What once felt overwhelming becomes meaningful, and meaning creates endurance. Pressure also has a way of exposing truth. Under pressure, excuses disappear and priorities become clear. Winners welcome this clarity. They use high-pressure moments to refine their standards and eliminate what no longer serves them. While others break under stress, winners use it to strip away weakness and reinforce discipline. They understand that comfort rarely produces greatness. Growth lives on the edge of challenge, and they are willing to stay there longer than most. Winners also know that avoiding pain today often creates greater pain tomorrow. Skipping the difficult conversation, avoiding the hard work, or delaying the necessary decision may bring temporary relief, but it compounds regret. Winners choose the pain of discipline over the pain of disappointment. They choose the discomfort of growth over the comfort of stagnation. This choice, repeated over time, separates those who talk about change from those who live it. When setbacks occur, winners do not personalize the pain. They don't let it define their worth or identity. They extract the lesson, strengthen their resolve, and move forward with greater awareness. Pain becomes a resource, not a roadblock. Pressure becomes a proving ground, not a breaking point. And as this pattern repeats, resilience becomes automatic. What once felt unbearable becomes manageable, and what once seemed impossible becomes familiar. Over time, winners develop a deep trust in themselves because they know they can handle whatever life brings and transform even the hardest moments into fuel for growth and personal power that continues to expand with every challenge they face. Winners understand that the mind is not something you leave to chance. Just like the body, it becomes stronger or weaker depending on how it is trained. Most people let their thoughts run on autopilot, repeating the same fears, doubts, and limitations every day. Winners interrupt that pattern. They recognize that whatever they consistently focus on becomes their reality, so they take control of their mental environment with intention. They don't wait for the right mood to appear. They create the right state through deliberate practices that sharpen focus and strengthen belief. Winners train their mind daily because they know that consistency beats intensity. A single burst of motivation fades quickly, but daily mental discipline compounds over time. They rehearse success in their mind before it shows up in their life. They visualize not just the outcome, but the effort, the challenges, and the persistence required to get there. This mental preparation builds familiarity, and familiarity reduces fear. When the moment arrives, they feel ready, not because it's easy, but because their mind has already been there. Another key difference is how winners manage their internal dialogue. Most people speak to themselves in ways they would never speak to someone they care about. Winners become aware of this voice and retrain it. They replace self-doubt with self-direction. Instead of asking whether they are capable, they remind themselves of what they have already overcome. This isn't blind positivity, it's grounded confidence built on evidence. By choosing empowering language, they change how their nervous system responds to stress, allowing them to stay calm, focused, and effective under pressure. Winners also guard their mental inputs carefully. They are selective about what they consume, who they listen to, and what environments they place themselves in. They understand that constant exposure to negativity, distraction, or comparison weakens mental strength. So they design routines that reinforce clarity and purpose. Whether it's reflection, reading, movement, or moments of stillness, they create space to reset their mind and reconnect with what matters most. These rituals act as anchors, keeping them aligned even when life becomes chaotic. Over time, this daily mental training reshapes identity. Confidence becomes a habit. Focus becomes automatic. Emotional resilience strengthens with each challenge faced consciously. Winners don't claim to have perfect minds, they have trained minds. And that training allows them to respond instead of react, to lead instead of follow, and to stay grounded in their vision regardless of external circumstances. This is why winners continue to rise while others repeat the same cycles, because the battle is always won or lost in the mind long before it ever shows up in results.